Hello my dear students. Welcome to another interesting class of economics. I hope all of you are good and enjoying good health. Let us start our class with full energy and enthusiasm. Objectives of our today's lesson are: to know about GDP, to know and write about the difference between GDP and GNP, to know and write about the concept of consumption, to solve the exercise of Chapter 4. Okay my sparkling students. Do you remember what we studied in the last session of economics? Yes. We studied in the last lesson about the concepts of national income. Can you name the concepts? Yes. GNP, NNP and GDP. In the last lesson we discussed about GNP and NNP. So today we are going to discuss about the GDP. So what is GDP? G stands for gross or total. D stands for domestic or local. Product stands for any good or service. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the total money or market value of all the finished goods and services produced within a country's borders in 1 year. It is a broad measure of overall domestic production. GDP shows the standard of living of the people in a country. My dear students, the products of other countries are not included in the GDP of your country. For example, all the products of other countries in Qatar are not included in its GDP. So, we can say that foreign goods are not included in GDP. In GDP, all those goods and services are included which are produced or given in the domestic boundaries of the country. It includes all inland and foreign factors of production. What are the factors of production? Yes, these are the factors which are must for producing goods. These are land, labor, capital, and organization. All the goods produced in Pakistan by using the raw materials produced in Pakistan will be added to the GDP of Pakistan. If a Chinese company produces a product in Pakistan by using Pakistani's factors of production, then the income from those products will be added to GDP of Pakistan, not to the GDP of China. Imports are not included in GDP. So, my students, what is the formula to calculate GDP? GDP equals total production minus expenditures. For example, if the total production is rupees 10,000 and the expenses incurred on the production is rupees 2,000, then the GDP will be GDP equals rupees 10,000 minus rupees 2,000. GDP equals rupees 8,000. So what is the difference between GNP and GDP? Do you remember we studied about GNP in the last lesson? So the difference is that GDP measures the value of goods and services produced within a country's borders, by citizens and non-citizens both, while GNP measures the value of goods and services produced by only a country's citizens but both domestically and abroad. For example, we live in Qatar and earn money from Qatar, but the money which we send to Pakistan is included in the GNP, not GDP. I hope by the example, now it is clear. My vibrant students. Now we are going to start another interesting topic called consumption. Consumption is a word derived from consume, which means to use anything. The purchase and use of goods to satisfy the wants is called consumption. We eat food when we are hungry and we drink water when we feel thirst. Consumption is closely related to income. If a person has more income, that person will consume more. More income, more consumption. Less income, less consumption. Production also leads to consumption. If production in a country is more, consumption will also be more. Consumption can be called your daily expenditures. Always remember that production in a country is related to consumption. So we can say that production leads to consumption. Always remember that production in a country is related to consumption. So we can say that production leads to consumption. My dear students, when we use or consume any item, its utility varies. Few goods provide long-lasting utility, or we can say can be used for a long time, and on the other hand, the goods and services which are needed again and again have a short-term utility. Few goods have long-lasting utility. Examples: car, clothes, shoes, mobile phone, tables, chairs. These things are not purchased on daily basis, while few goods have short-term utility. Examples: water, food, newspaper, tea, coffee. Dear students, following short questions must be in your neat notebooks. We have done these questions in the previous worksheets. Write the answers of these short questions from the previous videos because we have studied all these topics. State briefly income in economics. What is meant by personal income? State briefly the two concepts of national income. What is meant by national income? What is meant by gross domestic production? How is GDP calculated? What do you mean by investment? Differentiate between power to save and will to save. Describe consumption in 4 lines. Okay, my dear students, we are done with our today's lecture. Now the worksheet will be sent to you and you have to solve and return the worksheet on time. Thank you. See you again. Goodbye.